Welcome to the Trash Cats Trashcast. I'm Richard.
I'm Steven.
And today we're running through Steven's metaphysical manifesto on time and our relationship to it.
Oh boy, I'm very excited about this, but I also am quite worried it's going to be super cringe.
Oh, I mean, anytime anyone says, I've written a manifesto, it's usually, I feel like, the beginning of a bad story. Like, that's where it all started.
This is my sweetest, kindest manifesto yet. I'm quite proud of myself.
I'm definitely looking forward to hearing it. I did, as promised, read up on some Time Cube stuff.
Yes.
The problem is it's all bonkers, ludicrous bullshit.
Yeah, so, that's the problem with these manifestos.
Yeah, it's less of a manifesto, more of a man with untreated schizophrenia, rambling about theory.
Abstract theory.
Yeah.
I was saying to Sarah, like, if I wrote this manifesto 100, 200 years ago, I feel like it could have been considered pretty valid or esoterically interesting compared to, like, some Crowley shit. Like, I like Crowley, but half of it's trash, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Most of the shit in that realm is actually pretty bad, but considered valid because it was the first of the ideas written down like that.
You would have had the church mad at you for sure.
But now you write something like this and it's like, it's a very saturated market. But,
like, that's cringe, dog.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
just cringe.
But I think I have some fun ideas. But first, how was your week, man?
All right, let me go off real quick on people who go out and buy fucking race cars, like cars that are meant to expend a fuckload of horsepower and do some real damage on the track. If you're not taking it to a fucking track, you're a goddamn idiot.
Oh, you're not putting premium gas in your car?
Yeah. If you buy a car that's supposed to, it's like, oh, it can go 200 miles an hour. It's like, where? When are you doing that? When are you ever going to do that?
But dude, it looks so shiny.
Yeah. Until one person in a parking lot hits it with a shopping cart, and you're going to have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on getting a replacement for your door or getting body work done.
Dude, people are always like, somebody keyed my car. Who would do that? I was just at the grocery store. I would do that.
Yeah.
I am the motherfucker that keys all the expensive cars.
That's what you do is you go to the grocery store and you tie a bunch of keys to the side of the shopping carts and you just push them in between all the carts.
Dude, me and my buddies back in the day, we used to collect hood ornaments. And
that's like old school as fuck.
The prized one was the Jaguar because they started making the hood ornament retractable.
Oh, yeah.
So if you could snag a Jaguar hood ornament, you were like the boss, right? And we started tying them on bandanas. So like you could swing them at people. And one dude I know knocked out like 4 of some dude's teeth with a Jaguar hood ornament.
That's so fucking cool.
So badass. So off the chain. Just so ridiculous.
God damn it.
Yeah, people with their fancy cars, it's just as dumb as people having a $100,000 truck and they don't do manual labor.
Yeah, they do nothing with it. Absolutely nothing with it.
They don't even have a boat that runs around.
I guess we can get started now.
How was your week, man?
Pretty fucking chill. I had a couple of good days off. I just saw Coheed and Cambria last night in concert. That was cool.
Yeah, you said you had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I haven't seen them. I haven't seen any concert since 2019, as like most people. And it was really good. It was dope to get out. Plus the venue's like right down the street from the house, so we could drink all we want and not have to drive.
Hell yeah. I'm not a fan, and I have to say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair.
But I do think they would give a great live show.
Yeah, that's one for sure. Like their stage show is fucking bonkers.
I bet their vocals sound better live because it's in the mix, opposed to like on an album, the vocals stand out so much.
Yeah, when usually when they do live too, like all 4 members of the band sing, so you get like really cool harmonics that you wouldn't usually get.
Yeah,
different effects and shit. So
that's awesome.
Pretty sick.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Live show's so different than a studio album too.
Yeah. That's actually one of the bands I grew up listening to was Kiss. And my parents would always play their live shit. And I realized much later that it was their live shit is way better than any of their studio albums are fine. It's, if you're, into that, it's fine. But like,
it's a different energy.
Yeah, exactly. They can tell they bring more oomph to it when it's live.
They bring more bazongas to the table.
They did.
I'm a studio album person. I most live concerts I'm pretty disappointed by, but if it's like heavier music or intense music and they're good performers, it's, an amazing experience. Leftover Crack Live was so fucking dope. And I saw Gigi Allen and the Murder Junkies perform. Gigi Allen's been long dead, but it was the Murder Junkies' last concert ever.
I think you told me about that.
Yeah, and all the dudes are like 50, 60 years old, and the drummer still got naked. And the cops ended the show. Yeah. It was such a good time. But like something like that where their studio album I probably wouldn't have liked much. But live, it's just such a, intense performance. It's a different animal.
I never, I don't know. I feel like I could get away unless someone makes a recommendation. They're like, no. Like their live show is like really dope and it's really worth it. And I already like their studio album, their regular recorded music, at least a little bit. I'm pretty sure unless it's, I would go to see Between the Buried and Me again. I would go to see Mastodon again, or Coheed. I do want to see Buckethead. I don't know if he still tours. He's up in his 50s now, I think.
Him live would be insane.
Yeah. Especially because he usually brings like different guests and shit with him too. So like Bootsy Collins might roll out, or Surge from System of a Down might show up.
I set up a concert for Bootsy Collins one time. I forgot about that.
Did you ever meet him?
No. The Gorillas were coming to Detroit. They are coming to Detroit, and I really wanted to go, but it's complicated. But I will say 90% of rappers are dog shit live.
Yeah, I was going to say Tech 9, I could probably be convinced to go out to it, but man, his tickets are fucking expensive.
In Cincinnati, they're cheap as fuck. But he's the exception. And depending on the venue, but I've seen him a couple times, and every opening act sounds like shit. And then he is crystal clear. He's like the only rapper I've heard live that is technically skilled enough to do a good concert. Like some will do good concerts, but the music, you can't understand what they're saying.
Right, exactly.
The bass is way too loud. The venue is sound engineered wrong. Everything. It's just like a party and not it's like most rappers don't give a fuck about the music live.
No.
And Tech is not that way at all.
Yeah.
But it's fun stuff.
Yep, cool shit.
So chill week though?
Yeah, pretty good. How about you?
It's been okay. I have been mostly chill. I've been kind of overworked. I did eat Indian food today, so that's dope. But I've been going through this thing with art. I haven't put anything out in one of my longer stretches in the last so many years. Yeah. It's only been like a week or 2 weeks maybe. Maybe a little longer, but something relatively short. But I've been working the whole time on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually like kind of finished a couple things, but I didn't feel strongly about them. In the past, I might have been like very happy with it, but now I just didn't feel great about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been, as always, watching a lot of different media stuff, but I was listening to this one guy speak about how it's all about embracing the process over the product, just enjoying the ride and to enjoy the experience and to have no expectations of your finished product or what that product might bring. And while for some things like this podcast, I may feel that way about, with my art, I think that type of thinking of just enjoy the process, don't stress it,
Yeah.
I think that's a trap. Like, I think that is bad thinking. If it's
I feel like it's super hard to do.
It is hard to do. And I think for some things, it can be the right thing to do. But if it's the thing you're most passionate about, that means the most. Like, no one gives a fuck about the art that was just okay, or art that was almost created but wasn't finished, or the unopened sketchbooks. Like, all that matters is the product. And I think kind of falling into that trap of like, oh, it's okay, you're trying, just enjoy it. Like,
I feel
fuck
like
that, man.
I feel like that works for people that are like trying to get into it.
Sure.
But I think, like you said, there's a time limit on how, like, once you've found a product, once you've found a thing that you are looking for, like you have, then I agree that it makes sense to transition your thinking to goal oriented.
Yeah, and
I mean, different strokes for different folks, obviously.
Yeah,
but
for sure. But I just think it's a trap a lot of artists fall into, where it's like, oh, don't be so hard on yourself. Like, you're working, you're making stuff. It's not the best. It's like, that may be fine for a lot of people. And I've had to adjust my expectations a lot, with new work schedule,
yeah.
new career. My therapist is always fucking telling me that. She's like, you just can't do all the shit you're trying to. And I've changed my expectations and goals with art a lot, but I'm also not okay with putting out stuff I don't feel strongly about. And I'm willing to like let time pass still.
Yeah.
But I have to be like actually going for what I want. I can't just be like, oh, I worked on a little bit today. It has to be like, no, I really, really try like my hardest. So I'm kind of back in that no prisoners taken. And I was stuck on this piece for like a week and a half, and I have it figured out, and now I just gotta finish it up, grind it out, which is gonna take more time than I would like it to. But I know my direction. My North Star is realigned. So that's cool. Yeah. Honorable mentions. Got anything?
Yeah. I want to shouts out to those goddamn trash bags that are all over the highway that I complained about last week. A few of them I drove by today, looked like an animal had gotten into them, and now there's trash all over the highway again.
Fuck
so,
yeah.
That's just how she goes.
Gotta love it.
Gotta love it. Gotta be here for it.
Hey, but you better recycle.
Yeah, exactly. But if you don't recycle, the earth is going to burn.
Hey, personal responsibility, brother.
Yeah. It's on you. You can make the difference.
Only you can stop forest fires, bro.
Yeah. Meanwhile, just dumping gas all over the redwoods. Just only you can prevent forest fires.
I got a couple. I didn't have time to get to all of them, but I got two interesting ones. So the first, we're going to play a song at the end of the episode. It's a really cool one, super chill, kind of dreamy vibes. This track is by a rapper named Ant, A-Y-N-T, featuring Chaotic Steel, our homie, official rapper of the Trash Cats.
Hell yeah.
Really, really cool song. We're going to play it at the end. It's called Too Much to See. I've been talking to Chaotic this week, and he let me listen to the new album before it comes out in a week or two, next couple weeks, this month or whatever.
That's a celebrity privilege.
Oh man, it was cool, man. I felt really like honored to, have someone value my opinion enough to hear it. He just wanted an opinion on the vocal mixing. And I got really into it. I wrote a music review like a real reviewer, and it was really abstract and weird, which I think really fit. It's a very strange album. It's hip hop, but it's an atmospheric conceptual thing. It's very strange, and I enjoyed it a lot. Normally, rap albums, it's like, you skip the lame shit and get to the bangers. And this wasn't about fire tracks. It was about falling into an experience. And it was very unique in that. So I enjoyed it a lot.
Fuck yeah. Yeah,
very cool.
The song I heard was really good.
Yeah, so this is, it's actually separate from that, but this is a single by the rapper Ant, AYNT. You can find him on Instagram at AYNTJTC, and then you can find Chaotic Steel on everything under Chaotic with a KAOTIC Steel on everything. Listen to those dudes, check them out. We'll post links. And then, since our episode is on time, I have one more honorable mention that's really interesting. So there's been this weird thing that happened recently.
Isn't there always a weird thing that's happened recently?
This one's pretty strange, though. So this is about Alzheimer's research. I'm currently looking at an article from science.org, but
that sounds fake as fuck.
That science and nature are like two of the real big ones. But you know how like when they're doing research on a disease or drug, there's that early foundational research that kind of sets the standard. If you're doing a drug medication thing, like someone will discover this is how this drug works, and then other studies on the years past or the years coming, that future research and development are done on that theory to prove it, type of thing.
Right.
Well, it turns out some of the fundamental research on Alzheimer's was potentially fraudulent.
Oh, wow.
So this foundational research with Alzheimer's, the idea was that Alzheimer's happens because of buildup of a specific protein in the brain. Okay, that's the base idea. This is like 30 years ago. There were a pair of researchers, of neuroscientists, and in the last month, there's this AI that researchers use that scans medical documents and looks for potentially edited photos. Okay, so somebody built an AI to scan medical research, and the original Alzheimer's research got red flagged.
Oh, shit.
And they found out that some of these photos of this protein buildup were very likely faked photos. And all Alzheimer's drug research since has been based on that. And they believe that is why there has been so little progress into understanding Alzheimer's, dementia, brain disease, and the medications have been so ineffective.
Wow.
Major shit. Like
no shit.
Very similar to the vaccinations causing Down syndrome stuff. Somebody wrote a big paper on that, and the guy lied in all of his research, and today we still have conspiracy theories around that.
Yeah.
Now, there may be things to discuss around these ideas still, but when the foundational research is faked, it fucks all the science after it.
Yeah.
So they have to go back to the beginning in a lot of ways. Now, this information dropped like maybe 2 weeks ago, and since they are there is some evidence that maybe some of these photos were tweaked, but it may not be as extreme as was initially thought. Mm-hmm. But now all of that is up for debate. So there's going to be like a revolutionary rethinking of our understanding of Alzheimer's and brain disease, and to try to find more effective drugs. It's very, very sad, but interesting in the sense that as shitty as it is for research and understanding to be set back by 20 years or whatever, it does mean there may be better ways forward in the future.
Wow. Another potential example of what misinformation can do. And, like you said, it could be that it wasn't, edited as much as, you're made to believe from that, but
yeah, it's still unclear to what extent. It could be possible. It's all legit, but initially it was believed it was all faked, and now they're kind of trying to find out what exactly happened. But something fishy happened.
But like you said, that's pulling out a brick of the support there, and that shakes everything. That you gotta still go back to square one, and
it's scary when you think of like how many things we believe as truths, whether it's medical or just social information, disinformation, of things that were built upon lies. And then you have to figure out how to re-ground your moral axioms and go back to, the truth base to rebuild.
And it's in that way, only in that way, I can understand where people are like, on the fence about shit, and they're like, I want to, research this on my own, or like whatever. But it's like, there are certain things where you're not going to, unless you get a medical degree and get into the field and start like legitimately doing your own research, looking up other shit online is not.
Well, even testing like a company approved drug on 100 people.
Yeah, it
doesn't mean anything.
That's nothing.
Like, you need so much data. And that's why, like, in debates or like different news topics, there's normally only a handful of really good, top-notch studies on a given topic. And the people debating have to know those studies in and out, because it's very hard for studies to get funded and to get like the highest level of information back. So it's just really interesting problems in the science research field.
I wonder how much it pays to be a lab rat.
Not as good as it should.
Just go in and just like, put me on a couple months of the, whatever, any drug. Give me some drugs.
Oh, I've looked at those a bunch, and I've never been quite desperate enough to do them, because you can't get high while you're in drugs. Like, what good is that?
I'm coming here to get drugs. What do you mean I can't get high?
But I do know people that do that, or the blood plasma hustles is one thing, but the actually taking experimental drugs, that gets pretty wild, pretty
seems
quick.
Scary.
Because you basically sign all your rights away. Like, shit can go very wrong. That's not cool, and it kind of preys on people in vulnerable scenarios to be willing to do it too.
I suppose if you wanted to really be accurate about it, you would have to keep like good records about like your diet and like your blood pressure shit and like all of your like.
Most of them are inpatient. If it's any high level study, there are some they can do outpatient, like with different therapeutic drugs. It can be outpatient, or you check in every day or two, but any like high level experimental shit, you are in a clinic or hospital basically, which, if you take a psychiatric drug that makes you trip out for 3 days and you're in a clinic against your will.
Hey man, 3 hots in a cot. Right.
That's all you need, right? Well, speaking of Alzheimer's and brain damage, you want to get through this this bullshit.
Yeah, tell me what I need to know about time.
All right. Give me a quick moment. I gotta center my cheek.
Heard vape.
Smashes nicotine vape.
Aligning my chakras.
So, I've been wanting to write this for a long time. So being forced to do so kind of helped. So, just
like I held a gun to your head.
Ricky threatened me for a week straight. So I call this the Time Star Manifesto. And I'm going to start with a preface, because I want to share this, or potentially put this on some of the philosophy debate groups or forums. And those nerds, you have to preface everything so it's not misunderstood. So I want people to understand this well. So I'm going to start with the preface. And by the way, this is the first draft. It's not fully done. I know there's one section I haven't fleshed out, but I have the ideas together. So I'm going to read this in full from the top. Preface. These are ideas, not prescriptions, depicting the nature of time and our relationship to it through an artistically metaphysical lens. This is merely my own conceptual experience. I encourage you to steal whatever you're so inclined and to trash the rest. Lastly, I wish you safe travels through your timeline. Godspeed. Time Star Manifesto. From which stars have we fallen to meet each other here? That is a quote by Friedrich Nietzsche. Number 1. So there are 5 primary points. And if you picture a 5-pointed star, each point is a point on the star. So number 1, time is never late. Number 2, time intensifies. Number 3, time self-levels. Number 4, time is to be. Number 5, time concretes. So now I'm going to go through the points. Number 1, time is never late. Our perception of the timeline is the timeline. Past, present, and future run concurrently. There is no destiny, only imagination. Number 2, time intensifies. The nature of time is unchanging, but our perception of time is not. The more time we experience, the faster we perceive it. Time sickness. This warping of perception is a biological process which our brain undergoes as a self-defense mechanism to help minimize suffering as our bodies age, and ultimately to aid us in accepting death. Number 4, time self-levels. Time is balanced, always. While time is the gateway to possibility, it is simultaneously the limiter. Each second of time we invest into something divides our timeline into alternate realities. These different realities hold different possible futures. Each second invested into opening one future, in turn, closes the possibility of another. With each loss, there is gain, and with each gain, there is loss. Number 4, time is to be. There is no beginning, there is no end. Time always has been and always will be. Time is eternal. And while we may not be, the nature of our relationship to time is what grants our lives some level of purpose and meaning. Number 5, time concretes. In the present moment, time moves like liquid. As we progress forward through our timeline, the past hardens, our memory fades, and the timeline crumbles. While these past fragments of time may still be experienced concurrently, they become too hardened to alter and too shattered to feel. There is no going back. Outro. Time shall never hesitate to scar us, nor should we hesitate to scar it. Hold nothing sacred. This is the end of everything. The end.
I like that there are. See, like I know you and we talk about shit, so I recognize a lot of your ideas and things that you've described to me before that are there and laid out in a way that I was going to say simplifies, but that's not even exactly what it is. It both describes it and like makes a almost a law out of it.
Yeah, it's all kind of abstract laws. Now, what I do think you're kind of picking up on is there are some kind of contradictions. And what I will say is I'll show you, but hopefully by the time we put up the episode, I'll have it fully fleshed. Can you see that? All right, so that's the star. So the part that I didn't include reading is the time point intersections. So if each point of the star is one of the 5 points, where each line would be a different color, and where they cross is the intersections of where those 2 points merge and make sense together. So like point 1, time is never late. When it meets point 4, time is to be. They kind of, the contradictions kind of work themselves out. I have it planned in a very specific way that isn't fully figured out. And it is super abstract, but I think some of the things worked out I think they work well as abstract.
Yeah, honestly, I see it the same way, and there's a lot of it that I even agree with. That it's, I mean, I like multiple. There's a couple different theories of time that I like. One of which, you know, we talked about like string theory and like the multiple timelines and world lines and shit, and like I like that. Another one is like, since time is a man-made construct, it has no meaning beyond like what a calendar is. Like,
sure,
time is irrelevant. Everything's the now. The history records we keep are it's literally just that. It's just a historical record of the past that was the current, that was the present at the time. But time, you know, on a universal scale doesn't mean anything. But this is I feel like a much more human and relatable way to look at
because
time.
What I feel like is the most important thing is not really the nature of time itself, but our relationship.
Right. Yeah, and you did specify that, and I think that's important in the way that of looking at it. Of, God damn, that was a loud ass
boofing,
car,
bro.
Oh,
They'd be boofing up
damn
that
right. The idea of he's running late. His relationship with time is all fucked. He's fucked. I think the idea of creating, or not even creating, but, you know, transcribing ideas that are from the perspective of human is much more, I guess, necessary is the word I want to use. I feel like, you know, you can have scientific theories that are, or not even theories at that point, you know, like theoretical physics is like, it's all hypothesis shit, right? So having these ideas that come across and having people try to relate to it, but there's no relating to, you know, alternate, you know, realities, or, you know, or what is it? That's a bad example, but like, the fourth and the fifth and sixth dimensions and shit like that. Like, that's unrelatable as a person living in our world, but it's.
Yeah. I struggled with that with string theory.
Yeah, it's all just ideas and hypothetical shit. So it makes having something that it touches on not just experience, but feeling that you've had.
Yes.
That we've all had as human.
So what I will say to someone who may hear it and think like, oh, this is like woo-woo wackadoo, right? Is something I really respect in other people, right or wrong, is when they have their own unique thought process. Like when they have their own system or idea or just lens to look at things through. And I think, not that I think what I've created here is particularly unique or like important at all, but I think anyone writing out their idea on how something abstract or confusing or bigger than themselves works, to kind of figure out that system for themselves, I find a really intriguing way to learn about them and yourself. I like the idea that even if it's trash, that I've worked out a rough concept on how I think and experience myself in relationship to time, and I like seeing when other people have those type of things.
I mean, and I think some of your verbiage, I like you did kind of relate it to Crowley a little bit, but it's just in the verbiage you use. I don't think that
it's kind of romantic.
Yeah, I think
flowery.
that the ideas that you're showcasing aren't by any stretch of the imagination are like that far out there. It's the concept of even like time is never late. It's like the idea of like the past, present, future, like that's all. Yeah,
Pretty
it's like shit like that. Like it all happens at once, kind of thing. Like that's the shit that like there are scientists that would agree with you on some of these ideas that are not like so much agree with you, but they are like, oh yeah, this is shit that makes sense. It's not.
They could ground it in, even if it's not like science factually, they could ground it in a scientific concept of some sort, where I can't. So for me, I kind of approach writing something in this vein as more of a creative, poetic exercise, more based on the feeling. In part, just because I can't get to that deeper level of grounding, but
and
to me, I think it reads easy.
To your point,
sweetly.
To your point as well, the idea of getting into abstract ideas like that and opening it to not trying to like put it all out on paper and define it, as it were, in whatever way. One of my favorites is, and I think we've talked about it before, even on here, was like, what does it mean when you say something is? Like, that means, it doesn't just mean, like, there's Webster's dictionaries, shit, like, whatever, but it's like if something is, it exists, and, like, what does it mean to exist? And then you have to, like, kind of break apart, like, the different, like...
Yeah, what is the ontological nature of something? What is the true nature?
At that point, like, existing doesn't mean that it is real or, physical and tangible. It can be conceptual. It can be, just thoughts or, whatever. There's for something to be is a whole another thing. So like getting into that.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
It is. And so like getting into shit like that where you're describing especially the way you feel about a thing in a way that is, more scientific, or in a way to describe it without the emotion attached to it. Where it's like, because you're not writing a poem, you're writing a way something works. And it may be poetic, but it's, if the intention is to describe a way that something works for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why in the preface, I feel it's so important to qualify, like, take what you can in general from things you like. Just take, like, there was this artist book I read at one point, and it was called Steal Everything or something like that. And it was just steal every good idea you can from anything that inspires you and trash the rest. Like, that's
exactly. There are good ideas that come out of things. I always liked to do that with religion. I always thought that was a cool idea before I even, came to the idea of not believing in God at all. It was like, just take other shit from other, like none of them have it right, but there's cool ideas in there. There's little hidden gems like reincarnation.
Right.
Like that's a cool ass idea. Like, how can you make that work in your life view and like make that a fun thing that you can
play with?
Yeah, exactly.
Even if it's not becomes a belief, but like every kid is almost like mystified by Buddhism. Yeah, right? There's always a point where like a child learns about Buddhism and they're like, oh, that's so cool. And then like the idea of reincarnation captivates their imagination because you're used to like boring death theories, right? Yeah. It's like things like that. Even if you don't introduce it into your philosophical lexicon, you can at least play with the ideas. Now, so I think the preface the preface works pretty well. I want to go through it, but I sorry, I'm scatterbrained as fuck. Real quick, I do want to say one of the things that unironically changed my life a bit was coming across the INRI theory. I know I've mentioned it before, but to me, it was a theory that broke down the letters that stood for whatever on Jesus's cross, INRI, into a metaphysical equation. And it was I was like on MySpace at the time, getting into metaphysics stuff and like mathematical shit that was far beyond my level, with like chat rooms full of like weird adults into like satanic rituals and quantum theory shit. And I'm like reading these pages, and I came across this theory some German dude published, and it was so interesting because it took a concept and an idea and broke it into like laws, or just like simple points that added up, that when you read them, it added up to an idea and it like distilled it. And to me, that is like enchanting, even if it's something I fully disagree with. I just find that so interesting. But real quick, before we do the breakdown, you reminded me, I did write a poem. Oh, cool. Unrelated. Remember the salamanders and swans? Yeah. Yes. So I used to write insane amounts of bad poetry, especially in rehab, or like when like my life was too fucked up and I didn't have access to do art. And I think I can write some okay stuff, but I like haikus, and I like different like abstract formats, but I typically just do like 4 stanzas, something very simple. So I was thinking about the salamanders and the swans. This is a real short one, but I think it's kind of pretty. Pink salamanders swoon to an aching song of the swans. Their bitter last notes burn, long forgotten, like stinging wounds now gone.
Beautiful.
Pretty. Little dancing salamanders just bobbing along to the dying swans.
I think, I'm not sure if I ever described it to you like this. I feel like I was showing someone your art one time, and it was like way back the Tumblr days. And there was something, there's a few of your like writing pieces in a row, and we were looking at them, and I remember thinking of it as like they have like the stream of consciousness writing things. And I remember thinking to myself that it's a stream of unconsciousness. Ooh, I thought it sounded cool, but I thought it was a fun way to describe a lot of your older writings. Of, you know, it was just like some of the shit was like completely like unrelated shit to each other, or was like, you know, it just sounded really hard, and it was like so much of it. There's some of it was like related to, you know, or linked with a piece that you had just put up really well, and it was all different. And I thought that was really interesting. I've never been like a writer myself, and like I've on record of saying that like I have a fascination for things that I don't have a particular talent in. I really do appreciate it when other people like excel in a thing, or at least even like show interest in like cool arts and trades and shit that I have no proclivity towards. So I feel
that way about music.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone that can play drums, like, dude,
high five.
Yeah, fuck yeah, dude. You're cool as hell.
Dude, I have one poem I might have to read on here sometime, because it's 7 pages that I wrote in one go, and I think it's like by far the best thing I've ever written. It was like a weird experience. Like, I was sober, but I was like fucked up. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I was you like, know what I mean, man? I was like, I think it was one of those things where I hadn't slept in a couple days.
Oh yeah, dude. That's, and it was like, that's a rough one right there.
It was like a what's his name? Bukowski?
Bukaki?
It was Bukaki Bukowski. and it just cummed right out of him.
That's my other rap name.
DJ Corncob the Stalker. With a corncob grill and a ski mask.
God damn.
That's my fictional rap character. Right?
That's really good. I was going to say, is that a real person? But that's fucking awesome.
I wanted the big corn costume. Just throwing corn into the crowd. Some like Screamer Claus beats.
Yeah. Yeah, the corncob grill. God damn. You get ones that got like, your full
pop them off.
Your full gold, your full gold set. You get you get some that's got like some looks like grill marks on it, and then you get the Orville Redenbachers.
They could be raised really far, and you could like put actual pieces of corn in it. Or like it was like a ring setting where you could put popcorn kernels in the grill.
Yeah.
Dude, I know you remember this. The Wheaties. Do you remember those doped out like drug dealer cars?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, I knew.
What was it? Frosty Mini Wheats, Cocoa Puffs, and
I knew there was someone with a Frosted Flakes one.
Yeah, dude, it was all like one gang's thing. I was actually there one night. One of the dude's houses burned down, and he's got his like 60 grand Frosted Mini Wheats SUV just gleaming under the flames on the street. These motherfuckers like pimped out these cars and did full paint jobs of cereal boxes.
Oh, there was one that was a Orville Redenbacher one, and it said, "Let's get it poppin'."
Yeah. Some Cincinnati shit.
That's some real shit right there.
So apparently the story, I got the inside scoop on this. I had a buddy, and his name, I won't say his first name, but his name was Boop, put him in the trunk. like that.
You've told me about this guy.
Because this dude loved to put people in the trunk. His whole... He would be on the corner and he'd rob dudes by ripping off their back pockets of their jeans.
That's cold as fuck. Oh, god damn, that's real cold.
But he lived next to the Frosty Wheats guy, right?
Yeah.
And apparently it was like a group of dudes, some gang shit, but they would have all the pimped out cereal box cars drive along the highway in a caravan. So if the cops are going to pull anybody over, they're pulling over those dudes. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, their dudes in like a Honda could move the weight down 75, right?
That's the move.
That is the move. But you're in a fleet of cereal box painted cars. That's so fucking funny, dude. Yeah. So fucking funny.
It really is. It sets the target like, oh, like pull us over now. We are asking you. Pull us over. We're demanding, please.
So good.
Notice us.
Notice me, senpai. I'm trafficking drugs. Notice me.
Some real shit.
All right. Breakdown time. So I'm going to have you critique the points. So I feel like to start, I feel like the preface is fine. I don't think it needed to be any more in-depth or
yeah,
short.
no, I think that's okay. Well put.
I like the Godspeed through your timeline.
Yeah.
Nice. Artistic flair. All right. Point number 1. Time is never late. Our perception of the timeline is the timeline.
I like that a lot. I absolutely like that. I feel that. I mean, you can get on the literal level of it of, you know, when COVID first started, for example, this is a good example that's relatable to everybody. I remember everyone was talking about like, wow, like the month of March has just gone on forever, because it was like mid-March when everyone went into like super lockdown, and then it was like you live every moment like trying to figure out like what's happening. We're watching the news, and it was like a meme for a while of like March has like lasted for 4 years. And April went by like nothing. And it's all about in your perception of like what's going on and like what you're doing in your life. And
yeah,
I think there's, or the attention that you pay to something, like we talked about, when you're driving down the street and like you're thinking about shit, and then you realize like, oh shit, I've been driving this whole
straight
time.
teleported to work.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh shit, like when the fuck did I get here kind of thing. And it's like, oh, that's just because your attention wasn't there. Your attention wasn't on the task at hand. You were thinking about other shit. You were plotting out what you're going to do for dinner that night, or, figuring out how you're going to get out of debt or whatever the fuck, But that being said, that affects the way that you perceive time.
Yes.
So what someone else might have said, like, oh, it was like 20 minutes ago that happened. You might say like, oh, that was like 5 minutes ago or something.
Yeah, I think I really, and that to me had to be the first point, because I think it's so, I feel so strongly that we all experience time subjectively or individually. Everyone experiences it different. And I do believe for myself, these rules on time may be a lot more true than to some people, because it's changed throughout my life due to like brain damagey shit a lot. Like it, and I know I know my perception has been affected by those things. But if we look at how a child, like a infant, toddler to a 90-year-old person, I think it would be impossible to say the two experience time the same way. And then if you look at like how an animal experiences time to a different person or a different animal, we all experience it subjectively. So I feel like that had to be, right or wrong, our relationship to timeline is individual. So our perception is the timeline.
Yeah.
Especially with mental illness too. Sorry.
Yeah. The point of it being about perception is another key thing of, I gave the literal example, but also the, if you look at I was going to say metaphysical, but that's not the right word for it. The idea of what space-time is considered to be by active theoretical physicists and, astronomers and shit like that. The idea of what time is based off of, we have our own construct of, seconds, minutes, hours, shit, but like what space-time means is a very different thing. And it's the rules change depending on where you're at and what you're looking at.
Yeah, state of mind, brain level function. All right. There is no destiny, only imagination.
Yeah. Yeah, I dig that too.
I take that to mean the future is not set, and time is the limit to imagination. Or our future is what we dream or scheme it up to be.
Yeah, we're also both on record of saying that fate is...
Fuck fate.
Fate, yeah, fate isn't fun, at least. It's a lazy idea of looking at life.
Yeah. Point number 2, time intensifies. This is kind of one of my, I feel like, more original thoughts, that time may be stable or unchanging, but that our perception can fluctuate or is not stable. And that the more time we experience, the faster we perceive that. And I like to think of that as time sickness. The longer we're alive, the more time sickness we have, which farther increases the warping perception of our biological, physical experience of time.
Do you mean that like as you get older, it seems like time flies by really quick?
Yeah, as we age, we experience it faster. So as we're going down the timeline, we keep going down it faster. And where that kind of ties in with is the idea of like the different timelines, past, present, and future, may run concurrently, but we are shooting down our timeline faster and faster. And in one of the later points, time concretes, as we're going faster and faster, it's falling apart behind us too. And I just think the longer we're alive, the faster it goes. there's no evidence of it that I know of, but I really truly believe that as we age, we experience it differently as a means to protect ourselves from the stress, the anxiety of aging and dying.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that theory. You've told me that one before. I do like that idea. And I mean, it goes back to, the idea of time intensifies even. It goes back to the perception thing. It's like as you get older, you've experienced more shit.
Yes.
And, also you have more things on your plate, more things to think about than you did when you were younger. And you have more memories that are storing up data in your brain that you cycle through, whatever. It's you process that time differently because you have a different perspective on it.
And as a child, everything goes so slow. And in a lot of ways, I think that's so you have more time to learn and experience that. Like summer break as a young kid was forever, right?
Yeah.
Or you're not going to be an adult.
It was somehow forever and never long enough.
And then let's say you're 1 year old, right? Yeah. Every minute of your life is by proportion very large.
Right.
Opposed to if you're 90 years old, 1 minute is very small. So your experience is warped by that amount of time. And that factors into the time sickness, time traveler sickness.
It's the ratio.
Yes.
Ratio of your life. Yeah.
Time ratio. Number 3, time self levels. Time is balanced always. So this is what I mentioned I was getting from a recent talk by Sam Harris. So if later I mention, while time is a gateway to possibility, is simultaneously the limiter. Each second of time we invest into something divides our timeline into alternate realities. These different realities hold different possible futures. Each second invested into opening one future simultaneously in turn closes the possibility of another. With each loss, there's gain. With each gain, there's loss. So in a recent Sam Harris talk, he was talking about how each moment you put into something, that opens a possibility, but it also closes possibilities. And I hadn't really thought about that too much. And if you were, let's say we're looking down, we're inside the timeline. Our timeline is the big hallway. We're back in the big hallway, right? Let's say that hallway is full of water. The timeline is liquid. It hasn't concreted yet. We're in the present. We're flowing in the water in the hallway. Just a hallway filled, just a pipe. We're in a pipe now.
You're in a pipe, yeah. We're in the sewer.
Each second or each decision, each action we make, that pipe branches off.
Right.
And it keeps branching each decision we make. And as time passes, you're getting farther away from the other realities that you have turned away from.
Right.
And you still might be able to get there. And maybe for some things, that's you just got to walk back into the kitchen and grab the ice cream. You weren't all the way upstairs. And other things, it might be you spent 10 years in medical school and now you can't go be an architect or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And as you keep going farther down those branching tunnels or pipes or whatever, behind you, that is concreting and falling apart. So I just hadn't really thought of the decisions you make as also decisions not to do other things.
I like also that it's not worded that it's decisions you're making, because I feel like that's a bad way to describe the timeline shit to people. In my experience, when you're talking about what that means, I like the idea that it's the time you spend invested in something, because that it's not an active decision that you're making when you're like, okay, well, I'm going to spend a little bit more time working on the computer, a little bit more time watching TV, or, I'm going to take the scenic route home today from work or whatever.
Yeah.
It may not be an active decision that you are making, but when you invest time into something, you are still making the choice to spend your attention there. So it's an inactive thing that you are doing, but it does it can change the outcome of what opportunities are open to you in the way that, like, maybe you decide to, the extreme example of, like, maybe you decide to have oatmeal for breakfast that morning instead of microwaving a Pop-Tart like you usually do, and it takes you a couple extra minutes. We're going back to my oatmeal theory.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes you a couple extra minutes to get to work that day. So you're running a little bit behind when you usually would have, but right in front of you, you stop at a red light and a car gets T-boned and you realize, oh, that could have been me if I had Pop-Tarts.
If you only would have prioritized the oatmeal over the your whole life.
Yeah.
But it truly is about priorities. Like, we're all born, it's kind of like how your muscles are born in the muscle bags we're all born with a time wallet. We have a certain amount of time in that wallet. And each moment, each second of our lives costs a certain amount. And we don't know what that amount is, and we don't know what we have. But each second you're doing something, deciding something, enjoying something, you are spending time currency. And once that wallet's out, you're dead, and you don't know what things cost or how much you have. So each moment you're making an active investment to one gateway and away from another. And it's hard to know.
Now, here's an interesting thing to think about. Now, we both just said that we're not into the idea of fate. But let's say you have your time wallet. You don't know how much things cost, but you do have a finite resource in there. You have a finite amount of time. And there's no way to know how much is in there. There are things you can do to potentially, prolong, your life, your experience. But let's say you are in that freak accident, you do get T-boned and you do get taken out. All of the things that you did to potentially prolong your life, to spend your time dollars frugally.
Wasted.
That is the question. Were those time dollars ever there to begin with? Was that ever your time? Is there a factor of fate involved? Of not, fate is a connotation. I don't want to say that because
I'm with you. I would argue that moment leading to and during or whatever the car wreck, right? Instead of those other moments not costing time, trying to prolong your life, I would argue the moment of that wreck cost you a lot more.
So skipping the oatmeal and going for the Pop-Tart that morning was a decision that cost you so many time dollars.
Right.
Or spending the time, whatever. Yeah, is what costs you the time dollars.
Right.
That from your time wallet.
Yeah. Now
I'm on board.
Now
if you're listening and you're not on board, you're an idiot.
Now flipping back, we kind of skipped how do you feel, and then we'll go on to the next one. What do you think of the idea of time being concurrent, that we can be past, present, future all at once, that we can time jump or experience time differently?
Now, do you mean that in the physical way of if we were able to tap into a fifth or sixth dimension that we could physically do that? Or are you saying that in a more...
I would argue, right, or it's subjective in the sense, let's say for most people, it's not going to be physically going back to the past or the future, right?
Right.
But let's say you're super brain damaged or severely mentally ill, and your brain keeps resonating on the past or some fantastical or delusional future. Depending on how subjective you take that, you can experience that as a true reality. So I would say, depending on where you are thinking, is where you are where you actually are in the timeline, whether that is the same as what everyone else is experiencing as the grounded or true reality is kind of irrelevant.
So for let me think of an example here. I was going to say with Alzheimer's, because that's a thing that like my grandmother did with dementia. She would ask about, speak about her sister or somebody that, was, had passed, and would talk about them as if like, oh, I wonder what they're up to, like kind of thing. And like they died 20 years ago kind of thing. And it's like, oh shit. But it's like, what's the fucking, was it Adam Sandler, 50 First Dates, where the girl wakes up every day and it's the same, in her head, it's, she relives the same day over and over again because she has like whatever short-term memory shit that makes her,
goldfish
believe.
brain?
Yeah, goldfish brain.
Of course.
Where she's, wakes up and it's whatever day and her dad or whoever like has a paper from that day and like just lets her keep living like that. In her perception, it is that day, even though like years have passed or whatever.
Right. So that I would say that is her truth, right? That is her timeline.
But also, at least in that example, she is not living in the past. In her mind, she is still living in the present.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Even if her perspective to an outsider, it's the outsider's perspective that says she's living in the past. In her perspective, she's only living in the future.
Right.
Or only living in the present. And the same could be said about someone who truly believes that they are in in the future for whatever reason. They, in their perspective, the time period that they are in is still the present. Even if they were like, oh, I came from the past to this place now, they are still currently in the future, or still currently in the present.
Mm-hmm.
Because whatever time you are currently in would be present. So to a point of saying, and this is still circling back to where it can support the concept of you living in past, present, future, all at the same time. I like the idea of that being, it's still perspective. It's all about still, it's you're looking at whatever time you are in that you said it stabilizes in a way that it doesn't, it is both reliant on the user and doesn't care about the user's emotion behind it.
Right.
If that, I'm looking for better wording for that. But there is a way that it makes sense that it is both. Let me go back a step because I feel like I'm on the tip of something here. Of saying a thing that makes my perspective more easy to read. I have the lines drawn and connected some dots, but I'm not verbalizing it well.
You got time traveler sickness.
Yeah.
Do you want to think for a sec? I used to, so for the longest time, especially when I was like on my extra crazy shit when I was younger, I used to believe, like my strongest fundamental belief above everything else was that the only thing that is real is how we feel. That our whole physical reality could be the Matrix or simulation or in a turtle's dream, right? It was all irrelevant, potentially fake. We could be hallucinating, whatever. But our emotions were the only thing that were true. And I still very much resonate with that. But what I found is living that way makes it very easy to become lost. Because sometimes we can't always find a fully true picture of something in our emotions. And I think while looking at time purely by our perception, even though it may not always be accurate, it still is our most true experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of where I land with it. Even if it's a fallacy.
That's so actually it's funny you just said fallacy, because here's where I'm landing upon thinking about it. So there is still a huge part of me where I had mentioned it earlier, the idea of like time itself is a man-made construct that we're measuring things for our convenience. Like calendar shit, like we're measuring the movement of the earth around the, other things in the celestial shit that's near us that we just happen to be conjoined to via gravity, inertia, yada, yada, yada. But we are measuring it with an instrument that we created ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that's what we call time. And it is both very real and still at the same time is, I don't want to say nonsensical, but it's, like I said, it's for us, it's for our convenience.
Right.
It is both very real in the sense that it is a thing. It's a thing to track movement through space.
Does God have a watch?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's like it.
How many numbers are on God's watch?
Outside of human thinking, would animals believe in time? Would the earth, would stars, whatever, does God have a watch? Does any of it? We found a way to measure it this way, but that doesn't mean it's an inherent truth necessarily.
Now, there is this. So there is a thing with, like, of course, animals, like most animals,
experience
it's not
time.
That yeah, they don't experience time like we do. They make their motions based on, or they make their decisions based on the movement of the sun, and like not the movement of the sun, the movement of the earth. And when the sun's coming up in the sky, they realize, okay, it's morning, it's time to, I need to go forage or whatever I need to do. And there is a different study that bees can tell time, or bees have a internal clock. Mm-hmm. Bees, they tested this different ways, and it wasn't just by like daylight or whatever. Like they took a bunch of bees into a cave, and they had like the different ways that they tested this, but it was like at a certain time they would react to a certain stimuli that,
regardless of light, they knew.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was and there could be, forget how often they went into it, but it was like there's certain things that, like, it could have been like a hive mind thing or like a trained behavior thing from other bees, but it's like they tested all these faults out of it, and it's bees can tell time.
Yeah.
Or at least they have a sense of time.
It's like how birds have that magnet placed in their brain that allows them to fly south. Yeah. I'm joking, but that is a thing. Like their brain,
they have full GPSs and cameras
built in
because birds aren't real.
Yeah, birds aren't. It's just an extra microchip God put in the processing plant. But I get what you mean. Maybe that birds don't. Time is inconsequential to a bird, but their measure on their watch would be different magnetic fields or waves, right?
Like, what's important time wise to a bird? And it's like what's a bird's timeline look like? First of all, different birds have different lifespans, right? You got some like parrots and cockatiels and shit that live for goddamn 100 years. And then you have, like sparrows and shit that don't, smaller birds, whatever, that don't live that long. They'll still have pattern behavior though, where they, especially the migratory birds that go down south, and like they can tell by the changing of, the weather patterns and shit. They pack up their shit and they get the fuck on. and then they chill down there for a while, come back, build their fucking nests and shit, raise their kid throughout the summer enough to be able to make that trip with them. And then they teach them to do the same shit. So they have like the seasonal pattern of like that we do, but like what's their day to day look like? What's a year really look like to them? Like
a goldfish, how do we know a bird remembers yesterday? Their timeline may be only what their brain allows them, in the sense they don't go to the past or future because their brain cannot hold that. So their timeline is so subjective, it is only their now. I would imagine that it's that way for a lot of animals, right?
Oh, I do want to say this. Apparently there's the whole thing about goldfish don't like remember like more than 10 minutes or some shit. That's apparently not true at all. They can remember like multiple faces for, a much longer span of time.
I learned another weird thing about birds today, actually.
Yeah, let's hear about it.
All right, so
new bird law.
All right, in the olden days, there was a big worry that the world's population was going to start collapsing because we didn't think we would have enough food to feed the whole world, right? The population was exploding. So there started to be wars over these islands that the birds lived on. And they were near, I believe, off the coast of the South Americas, right? Like Spanish and businessmen troops, where people would go to war over these islands, right? And there were these islands that were basically uncharted, very small islands full of thousands and thousands of birds that would stop on these islands on their flight path south or whatever. And these islands would basically be like a mini sandbar, right? But over the hundreds of years, it turned into cliffs. Like some of them like 90 feet high, 50 feet high, whatever. And it was all bird poop. And just like bat shit, it's called guano. And there'd be whole cliffs, little mountain islands of guano from the birds.
Oh, wow.
And this...
disgusting.
Dude, guess how much it was worth?
Oh, a large fortune.
Dude, every 4 pounds of guano would sell for 1 pound of gold.
God damn.
It was a 1-to-4 ratio for a long time because
super good resource.
Yes, we didn't have enough food to feed everyone, but this guano was like up to 20% nitrogen, which was like unfounded. So it was used to make fertilizer, and the crops would produce like 20% more food. So people were going to fucking war over these bird shit islands to harvest fertilizer that would sell for like 1/4 of the gold ratio. The shit to gold ratio was 1-to-4, until the same scientist that created Zyklon B, used in the Holocaust and other chemical weapons, created a way to distill, I believe, ammonium to make fertilizer. And so the same scientist that was a German nationalist that made the gas weapons, chemical weapons that killed like hundreds of thousands of people in the same year, he created the chemical weapons after, like within the same couple years as creating a way to distill nitrogen, which they estimate today 1/4 of the world gets their food from this man's discovery.
Wow.
So he was high, and he won like big science awards, and people would protest him at the same time. It was a very conflicting thing, and he was very guilt-ridden to some extent, but it may have been primarily after a dinner one evening. So he did this during World War I, and World War II starts. He had already got all these awards for making the fertilizer process to distill ammonium or whatever. And World War II is starting, and he converts all of his medical facilities to solely work on the chemical weapons, including Zyklon B, for the Nazis. He wanted to, and he was Jewish too, but he still loved his country and thought it was justified or whatever, right? One day after a dinner with some friends, his wife was so upset of his new obsession to make things that killed people, these chemical weapons. She stole his gun and went out to the garden right after their friends left and shot herself in the heart. And then he eventually refused to continue doing the weapons research and left the field and died of a heart attack.
Wow.
Very wild, though.
Yeah.
So weird.
While we're on the topic, another good use of guano. Another thing that people use guano for is in a lot of beauty and makeup supplies.
Yeah.
I read that in a Ripley's Believe It or Not when I was a kid.
Believe it or not. All right. Time is to be. This one for me was probably one of the less important ones, less subjective and more just kind of about establishing fundamentals. To me, this was probably the weakest of the points, the idea that time always will be, has no beginning for end, and is eternal. Just that our subjective experience of time is that time isn't reliant on our perception of it, I guess. It was more, probably could have gone earlier on, but I wanted to get some of the more interesting ideas out and then kind of ground it with this a little bit later.
Yeah, that's a good way to do that. You know, catch the attention first and then rein it in.
Little showmanship.
Yeah.
The last line of it is, though, our relationship with time is what grants our lives some level of purpose and meaning. That if we were vampires that lived forever, nothing we do would matter. Or if it did, it would just matter a lot less. The level of urgency or finite nature of time, of those time dollars in our time wallet, if we had infinite time dollars in our wallet, how we spent them would matter a lot less.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's part of what
I agree with that.
Makes our existence so romantic and tragic at the same time, because it is so limited. I feel that more and more as getting older. It's like, oh man, you just gotta pick and choose wisely because it is already gone. You know, like,
hey man, your 30s are your new 20s.
Dirty birdie 30s. All right, last big point, and then the outro. Time concretes in the present moment. In the present moment, time moves like liquid. We kind of talked about that. As we progress forward through the timeline, the past hardens and our memories will fade and the timeline crumbles. Now that I think is purely our subjective experience of time. But to me,
right.
And I feel like it's a bit of a universal, maybe not fully, but it gets harder and harder to go back, to flip back to the past, or to necessarily go back to the future is a little different. The future's fuzzy, but the past hardens, it fragments, we lose little pieces, and as it shatters, it gets harder and harder to feel. Going to the past gets more and more abstracted as the fluidity of time kind of concretes and crumbles. There's no going back.
And it is a very subjective thing. I mean, even if you look at, we've touched on the memories thing before, of like, it's your recollection of a thing, your memory of anything is not as trustworthy as you would think it is. And I believe that in our current society where we do have, you can take a video with something in your pocket, you can take pictures and shit like that, that will help to concrete those ideas in a way that helps it from fading, but it's still not a thing that you might think of on a regular basis. You have different standout events throughout your life that you're not going to forget, but you just don't think of them. And they do just become memories, and they do become reliant on you to recollect what it was or those emotions you had in that and that frame. And it's, again, goes to the, you are always in the present thing. The past is, there is some of the back and forth between the past isn't real, and then the past is it's in your subjective, right? Like, so you are living in the past when you not living in the past, but you are experiencing the past when you
are thinking about it.
Yeah, when you recollect those memories.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then with that kind of goes an idea I've spoken before about as the past is meant to concrete. It is meant to crumble. Things are meant to fade, because the idea of being able to or forced to remember everything would be too painful for people to bear. We are meant to forget things. Forgetting is a form of feeling in some ways.
Yeah, you're creating space for new data. There are some things where you might be protecting yourself from things.
Guilt, shame.
All the cringe shit you did when you were a kid.
Oof.
Until it's, bedtime and you rest your head upon the pillow and you just get comfortable, and then you think of that one thing that you said to somebody in the 7th grade. It's shit like that, is a prime example of it, but
some things are meant to be forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's many things that happen in your day-to-day especially, but like many things that happen in your life or you can do without.
Yeah. And then the last line of that, of the time concretes was, and this is one of the contradictions. I feel like there's justifications, and I may have put it in purely out of poeticness, but there is no going back. And while, so much of this speaks of concurrent time, being able to go back and forth, past and present, there is an element of, while we can flip back and forth, as
it's ever moving onward.
Yeah, and that we can't, even if we are experiencing the past, it doesn't mean we can fully go back.
Right.
And that there's a contradiction there. I may have to find an additional line to kind of ease that tension point a bit, but poetic. I mean,
here's also the thing: is you're not writing a scientific law.
Sure,
this is based on experience and perspective. So, I think that having those inconsistency, if you will, is a
character.
Yeah, it's part of it. It's part of the experience, because when there's so much that is inconsistent, and it's when it comes to subjective natures of things, you're flooded with inconsistency. When you're comparing, especially one's experience to another, to someone else's experience of anything, you're going to have a different experience, a different what's the word I'm looking on that it's everything's inconsistent. So I feel like having that rule, having a steadfast rule of having it be
perfectly smooth.
Yeah, I think that's incongruent with with reality, with experience.
Yeah, and
that does still fit with science, because what science is taking things, and the things that you can see and experience and, whatever, taking those things and explaining them. So I feel like still having that. I mean, consistency is key in science, but
yeah, I get what you're saying. I think how this, one of the opening lines is how past, present, and future are concurrent. I can flip back to a time where, my brother is alive, where I can experience that. I can remember all the dumb shit we used to do. And when I'm thinking about that, he fully is alive. I am living those moments, right? And then as the manifesto gets to the closing, while I can still experience that, there is no going back. You can't change
right
what happened.
Yes.
There are hard gateways along the time pipe. And even if you can go back to experience things again, you can't necessarily change them after too long has passed. Like someone dies of an overdose, right? Depending on the situation, you have a certain amount of time, like a heart attack, overdose. You have a certain amount of time to revive someone, but the farther down that pipe, the less chance there is of changing that reality. Not every death is that. Death may be one of the hard gateways, but oftentimes you have a certain amount of time, and you can always re-experience the past as the present, or a fuzzy reality of a future, but you can't go back all the way.
Yeah. The future is inevitable. The past is unreachable. The present is always.
I also kind of thought of the past is solid, the present as liquid, and the future is gas for some reason. I don't know why. Feels good though.
Yeah.
Outro. I like this kind of I do kind of want to rewrite this. I like how poetic it is, but
yeah, the kind of in conclusion.
Yeah. Time shall never hesitate to scar us, nor should we hesitate to scar it. Hold nothing sacred. This is the end of everything. I really like that this is the end of everything. And the idea of time being so finite, giving it purpose. Time will never, has no conscience, never will hold back from marking us, nor should we hold back from marking it. And because of that, and the passing nature of knowing it all crumbles in our subjective experience, that there's no point of holding anything sacred or holding anything back, because it's already over. The end's already here.
I when I hear this is the end of everything, it makes me envision a fuse. And when the beginning of time, as it were, was the spark of the fuse. And it may be a very long wick, it may be a very long fuse, it may be that, outlasts, us and every other living thing for eons, but it is a thing, and it will come to an end. It has the idea that it has begun means that it also has to end.
I will say, when I think of that outro, I think of that as our timeline, our relationship with the larger hallway timeline of time, but that time itself would be eternal. That's how I perceive it.
Okay, yeah, I can see that too.
I think it's very fair, or a matter of perception, that even time itself ends. God's watch has an alarm on it at some point.
Mm-hmm. He's got apps on there. He's He's got a little fitness app on there and shit too. And, he's got to keep them abs in shape.
Keep that heart rate up.
Yeah. Keep them Christ on a cross abs.
Eat fresh.
Eat fresh. God brought to you by Subway.
There's actually a debate moderator that I listen to a lot that has a foot-by-foot tattoo of the Subway logo on his back. And he's in law school and runs this debate charity thing, and he has a massive Subway logo. And apparently it was part of a Subway promo they did, and they flew these people out to Las Vegas, and they had to get the tattoo, a foot-by-foot, a full color fill of a Subway logo anywhere on their body. Everybody did their back. And if they paid to fly him out and everything. And if they got it, they got $50,000 worth of Subway, which actually doesn't sound like that much. Right. But for him, he said that is one full meal of what he would like every other day for 40 years. And he was in law school or whatever at the time. And he's like, why would I not do this? I will never go hungry. I have enough calories to live off this the rest of my life. But also, how fucking ridiculous would that be?
Yeah, it's so fucking wild.
It's like the dude that started renting space on his skin for different brands. There was a dude that did a porn website logo on his forehead for like $100,000 or some shit.
Hey man, I mean, dude, that's a rough one.
That's a rough one.
I was gonna say on your forehead, that's a rough one.
Yeah, it was like xxx.com on his forehead.
It wasn't even like Pornhub.
It wasn't even
like a good one.
Yeah. You know the Reddit the tile thing we looked at? What the fuck was it called? The thing we watched the video of where they placed the tiles.
Oh yeah,
Our
yeah,
Place.
the pixel
Our
art.
Place.
Yeah.
There's a guy he's trying to get enough funding from different companies to do that with his back, where his whole back would be divided into a grid 1 inch by 1 inch, and people could rent or buy those inch plots of his skin to put whatever they want. He's trying to do like every inch. Like if he could get enough companies interested, he could sell like each inch of the skin for like $1 million or whatever.
I'm picturing like so many different brands that are like
competing,
that get that offer, and they're like,
"Fuck you!
What the fuck are you talking about? No, I'm good."
Yeah,
and then the ones that are like on board are either like way out there, like they're probably like maybe cool companies, but they're still like they both have the money and they
no morals.
Don't care. Yeah, the value is super low. And then there's going to be some that are like so desperate to get any kind of attention.
See, that's the thing. Unless it gets publicity, like if you just put your tattoo on a random dude's back, you're getting no return of investment.
Yeah, until he's at the beach or
you get 3 people to buy a foot long off of that. Like over that dude's whole lifetime, how many people bought Subway because of his tattoo? Not $50,000 worth, that's for sure.
I mean, if I'm being honest, I could probably fuck up a Subway right now. I'm pretty hungry.
So that's the Time Star Manifesto. I feel what's your overall A, B, C, D, F?
I'm saying A. I really like it.
I'll take an A. I need an A now and again. I feel like it's okay. I feel proud of it.
Yeah.
I think
you polish it up, especially since you also do have a visual aspect to it as well. I think you could definitely turn this into an S tier theory. Going
for the double S.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate you exploring it with me. It's fun.
Yeah, man. I'd say very cool. I want way better than Time Cube.
I was
hoping to find some similarities I could exploit at your expense, but
I always titled the last episode Ricky's Trash World Theory because we joked about that. But I would like to see you write a theory. I mean, time would be cool too, but maybe on another topic of your choosing to see what it might look like would be cool.
Yeah, there are plenty of both philosophical and like physics and shit like that I like ones that I don't even so much subscribe to, but I like, that I've, like we said, you take things from everything, steal from everything, right?
Yeah.
So like steal little bits of this, and I like the way it works with this kind of thing. But the issue there is that I don't subscribe to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I have plenty of ideas to submit. I like, it's hard to say that I subscribe solely to certain ideas because I am very open to different ideas and information. I don't know. I could put something together.
Yeah, let me know if anything
we could have fun with it.
Pops to mind.
It might be a couple months before I have free time to do that, but
I already feel that. Before we close out, I heard one other interesting theory I wanted to shout out, especially with all the Roe versus Wade shit going on, because God, the news has really sucked. I heard a really interesting theory that was new to me. Okay, this is an argument in attempt to shut down choose life for losers, right? So this is an attempt to reinforce the right for abortion. The theory is that abortion should be considered legal self-defense. Now, the person with this theory broke it down into basically something similar to like castle doctrine in the sense of self-defense laws. There are 4 qualifiers of bodily harm. And I don't remember all the 4, but there were things such as like grievous bodily harm, permanent damage, threat to life, and like something else, right? Something like that. And even with modern medicine, most or a qualifying number of those are still very real possibilities, and that's with our modern science and medicine. So any mother should have the right to defend herself from this child as self-defense.
That's a very interesting perspective on that I had never considered before, but that is
right.
I mean, it's more valid than plenty of arguments I've heard.
What's really good about it is the people that are, choose life fucking losers, they immediately go to the rights of the child, that this child, before it's even born, should have the rights of a full human being. Then why should the mother not have the rights of the self-defense laws to protect herself from this other human being? It's very congruent with a lot of established law in the sense that it could help justify. I don't know. It's just an interesting change of perspective and potentially a good way to combat these arguments in the future.
Yeah.
Fresh. Good ways to justify baby murder.
Subway, eat fresh.
Subway, eat fresh. Eat fresh babies. No old babies.
Yeah, don't get those old Benjamin Button boys.
Only the freshest. Well,
I was gonna say that's where all the couldn't think of what they're called. The stem cells. That's where all the good stem cells are at. Them good fresh babies.
Yeah. Did you know we invented broccoli? Dude, we invented broccoli in the Americas. Like, I think it was 1800s.
I was going to say, when you say we.
Me, myself. I went back in time using my time manifesto. I avoided time sickness, and I created broccoli. Just for this podcast. No, but
you picture you go through.
I attach some stick or some leaves to a stick, and I'm like, broccoli.
Yeah, we have that. It's over here. And you're like, I invented that.
I cross-blended a giraffe neck and a carrot, and I created broccoli.
and then a bunch of people got really upset with you, and a bunch of some other shit happened. But you were like, but I made broccoli. Like, we have plenty of broccoli already.
They tried to burn me to the stake.
You're welcome.
Time traveled back to the present.
Oh, God damn it.
I think we're going to get out of here. Before anybody stops listening, we got a really cool song by Chaotic Steel and Ant. It's a track by Ant featuring Chaotic called Too Much to See. Check them out.
Very chill.
Yeah, check them both out on Instagram. Very cool stuff.
Thanks again for listening, everybody. Thank you to Approaching Human for the use of his music. You can find his work on SoundCloud at Approaching-Human. Make sure to check out the show page at Trashcats on Instagram for news and art from the show. Check out Facebook for the memes.
For the memes, if you're super bored, you can check out my trash art on Instagram, which I am fighting the good fight to get up there ASAP. And I think that's it. Thanks to the homies. And next week, freestyle. And then we got we got some cool ideas
coming up. It's going to be all for us today, though. Stay classy, eat trashy.
Go fast, eat trash. Too Much to See by Ant featuring Chaotic Steel.
Ain't no fucking around. No, ain't no fucking around. No, we ain't fucking around. Ain't no fucking around. No, we ain't fucking around. Yeah. Yeah. Ain't no fucking around. Too much to see, too much to think about. I need peace. Do this for me, my wants and needs are both aligned. I cannot waste my energy. You never satisfied. I cannot bend and break my spine for something, make pretend. I'm who they searching for when lows arise. Allow me to refocus you again. Got the avenue I come from, rooting forward. Some crafted truth without no truth in force. Got them asking how the dude react so rapidly. Cause my attitude is strapped for war. You can't understand the fabric of my cloth. You don't know the half, you know it's lost. I'ma show my soul through all these words I jar. Had to find my G before I press record. Yeah, deep breath. Didn't notice when I stopped being depressed. Dropped another heartfelt joint from D-Quest. Now I take a long walk, think about what be next. Yeah, refresh, take me off your radar, cause it needs to reset. And I'll be damned if I had a sweet step, knowing people walk around needing love and respect. Too much to do, too much to see, too much to think about. I need peace. Do this for me, my wants and needs are both aligned. I cannot waste my energy. I am the one, the only one, the chosen one. I froze the sun in hopes the system freeze. Put demon homes from angel bones stand alone on this mountain, victory. A mystery, ain't it? Series of unfortunate events left untainted by my poison, but the side effects of the cure get your brain less deranged by the method of how I bring the pain. K-A-O-T-I-C steel. On the wheels of steel, two outcasts on the brink of this is real. Got mad holes on my nerves, bitches, fuck how you feel. Am I an animal? For rapping with this, am I a animal? Am I a alien? Fuck a mankind with the mandible, claw, laughable. Why would I trade a life when I am the jack of all? Heard a little Uzi vert, call me a little introvert. You think the gods think your little universe protect us all through my speech, fuck who's shooting first. Pay for your sins, but don't pay for the students' hurts. Hey, false taste, wake up every morning with another beat to slay. Homeless with a heart is, I'ma have a place to stay. Always and forever, I have never been okay, I promise.